Thank you again for having me, and welcome and to this talk, See and Understand Your Data. I'm Geraldine, but everyone is calling me Gigi. I'm a developer advocate at Tableau. And just to give you a little bit background about myself, because I think it was going to be useful for this presentation, I started at Tableau as a pre-sales consultant. So I was working with EMEA, I was based in London, EMEA customers to adopt and use Tableau in the right way. So when I joined the the developer relation team at Tableau, I really tried to apply all the learning and all the advices that I was giving to customers to DevRel and developer relations. So it's why I decided to put this talk together. So we are going to talk about why data visualization is important, and also why is it important for DevRel. Then we will talk about where to start once you have a blank canvas. What is the best way to start? Which data can you use and how to visualize it? It's where I'm giving you tips and tricks for how to visualize your data and any advices to continue and apply these skills in your team or organization. So at Tableau, we have one mission. We help people see and understand the data. When we say people, is anyone that is a business users, that you don't need technical skills to get started with Tableau. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with Tableau already. And if you're familiar with it, you might be familiar with Tableau Public. It's our kind of YouTube of visualizations. And we help people build awesome visualization that they can share online publicly. And you might be wondering, it's like, oh, they are doing a lot of visualization. Do they have API? Why do they have a developer relation? So we have a bunch of APIs just to give more context about our developer platform tools and APIs. We go from automating tasks on the server to connect to data sources. But that's not today's focus. Today's focus is why data visualization. It's important to start with this game, I think. So that's in the way you should look at your screen. And now I will ask you to count the number of 9s. You can post it on Slack and say, how many 9 can you see on this slide? I'll give you a few seconds there. So now you might have a number in mind. How confident are you with this number? Are you like 100% sure that's my number, that's the number of 9? And now if I go to the next slide and I ask you again to count the number of 9s, how many 9 can you see? Now you have an answer. It's way quicker than before because we added the color there. And it's another part of your brain that is actually using and say, oh, okay, color red 9, I can count it. And also, how confident are you with this answer? Way more confident than before. It's why data visualization is important. Let me give you another example. So at Tableau, we have this superstore. It's a fake supermarket that is selling a bunch of different furnitures and accessories. And you look at this and you're like, okay, that's bad. Like first thing in your brain is like, something is going wrong at Superstore. And you say, okay, what is it about? Is it because of a graph? What if I turn the axis and change the axis? Straight, you're like, okay, are they losing money? And I'm sure right now it's just not sure. What about if I change the color? Adding this blue color there, is it a way more positive message? You have a better insight and you're like, okay, are they losing money? Like, I'm not sure anymore. The color says something else. And now we change the title and Superstore profit is going up. So you have a way more positive message based on this visualization, and you have a different message sent across to your audience. If we put these two visualizations side to side, it's the same data, but represented different ways and with different contexts there. But why is it important in DevRel? Why do I care about how data is represented? So first is having a better understanding of your developer audience. You have quick insight in what is your developer audience, why is your developer audience cares. you can create then more targeted content for your own audience. And of course, I think is an issue, especially in DevRel, is that you have to prove your value, your work, to other teams or executives. You have to say, oh, that's my work and that's the impact I had. So that's a great way to show your value to other teams and other parts of your organizations. And also it will help you to define your different engagement points, which one is the most relevant for your audience. On that, I put a framework together when we talk about data visualization. I like to start, of course, I put the avocado back on the slide. Say first, ask the questions yourself. You say, what do I want? Which data do I want to see? What are my insights? Then once you have this question and goals, question can be goals as well, say, okay, I don't have this specific goal and I want to answer these specific questions. Where do I find the data? How do I access the data? And only once you answer these questions, you get the data and have the question lined up, you can visualize it. And you will see if you are new with data visualization that once you answer one question, you have like thousands of new questions coming up. You're like, what about that? And what about this? And then you start again. It's just a circle. And you ask new questions, find your data. So let's start by asking new questions, finding your questions, define your goals. So what are your goals? I think you had multiple talks already on Tuesday that I watch again. We really recommend to define your goals and your metrics. But something is, where are you in your developer journey at the company? So Tableau developer program has been around for 3 years. So we went through the beginning of the developer program where we created awareness. It's like, we are here, we are there, we're helping you, helping developers, to the adoption of APIs and the program. Then you go through the growth. You want to increase the usage of your APIs. Then you should align with the goals of your department. You have different goals if you are in marketing, in dev, or in sales, for example. And defining your own metrics is the start of your journey with data visualizations. You have a blank canvas and you have questions to answer. Something I noticed as well is that I have, or at least, the tendency of having 1,000 of metrics, and it's like, I want to look at that and that and that, especially being a data geek, I'm like looking at 1,000 of different metrics. And I think it's important to say that if you have too many metrics or no metrics at all, you have a tendency of looking everywhere, and you don't have a real focus on what are your goals and what you want to show to your executive team or to any else in the organization. So now you have your metrics and you have the questions you want to answer. The next step is finding the data. So the most word, there's another way to say data is a new bacon. I don't know if you heard that before, but yes, data is the most valuable resources right now. And data is everywhere in DevRel. You have social media, blog posts that you are posting or external blog posts. Are you raising bugs? How many forums? You have thousands of different data and they are out there for you to collect them. So finding your goals, define also the data source you can use, from bug recording to GitHub pull request or bugs raised. The next step is going to be understanding where your data are. A bunch of social media like Twitter or I'm not sure about LinkedIn actually. They have APIs where you can get data. Blog posts, you might have a tracker code to have Google Analytics data. The product logs and the forums might be in your backend data sources or store in Excel spreadsheets. Find where are the data and how can you get access to them. And once you have all this data source set up and you are aligned, you have, okay, I have 10 different data sources. I encourage you to take a step back and don't think about one singular data sources. What about combining different data sources all together? If I tweet more, do I have more views on my blog post? What about the bigger pictures? By combining these data sources that are separate, they're like APIs, that's backend, you can combine them to have the bigger pictures. And trust me, it's not the fun part. I went through that and I felt like this guy because I was struggling. It's like the data source was not, I'm just going to pass the next one so you don't think it's too much animation on one side. But it's not the fun part. You are going to get the data source and you have to clean the data sources, get the admin right if you don't have, or do some digging and say, oh, I have this blog post, but I don't know if I have a Google Analytics track. So that's the part where you actually have to challenge yourself or your team to get access to the data and clean the data so you can actually visualize it in the right way. So now you have your goals. You have your questions, your metrics. The next step is, how do I visualize it? And I'm going to give you some tips and tricks that are valuable to visualize your data and get your message across. I think it's important to have clarity in your dashboards. What if you are building a dashboard for yourself or for your team or let's say for the executives? Do you want to tell them a story? Say, hey, if we have a blog post, we have more views on the GitHub accounts. And that's your story. And you don't want the person looking at your visualization to be, okay, so I have this dashboard. I need to do some insight. I'm going to find my own insights. That's the data and they are visualized. So if you want to let users finding their own insight from the data, be clear that you are telling it in your visualization, in your dashboards. So use of the drop-down menu or filtering, depending of what you want, how you want your user to use your viz. Color is important, and you might start with a unicorn puke because you are getting real into it. You're like, I see, like I can see that, and like you have all these colors because you have so many information that you want to share, and you end up with a lot of colors on your dashboards, and it looks like a rainbow. And you're not, if you look at the right dashboards, no message across. You have a lot of data and the person looking at your dashboard will be like, oh, okay, that's too much for my eyes. I can need to stop. So use the color wisely as a weapon. Again, which message do you want to get across? We saw it with the example at the beginning. The red color is associated to a negative thought, when the blue color is more neutral. I like to start, for example, my dashboards with a gray color, and add color at the end so I can really get my message across. Text is important. So it can be the filtering, the labels, the title. We saw it again at the beginning. The title is which message do you want to come across? And I think if you think you notice, I'm not an English native speaker. So sometimes I send dashboards to my manager and he's like, oh, I'm not sure what you're trying to say in this dashboard because I'm using Franglish as a new language I made up. And it's not the same message you're sending across, even if you have the data, when someone doesn't understand your caption or your title. I think another mistake when we start with data visualization is trying to make the most of the data visualization and get attracted to visualization that are not that impactful, but they are pretty. Like this bubble chart is really pretty. Which message is it sending across? We are not sure here. It's a lot of colors, looks pretty, looks like a flower, but you're not sending your message across with pretty visualization. You need to think about the visualization you want to use before and be like, okay, the bar chart is not the prettiest one, but is efficient and get your message across. Another advice, especially in DevRel, when we are back to normal, we are always on the road on like between two flights, and we don't really have time to open the laptop to look at the last metrics. So think about mobile and how someone with a mobile is going to see your visualization and your data. You don't want them to scroll or to like zoom in on the mobile. It's not a great experience, and they might just close the dashboard and be, I don't want to use it. Now that I shared advices on how to start with data visualization, I think it's also important to show you how we use it at Tableau. So on the left side is data where we track our dashboard we use to track our hackathon events. It's a really simple dashboard, but it does the job. We are looking at the number of registration over time, so we can check it when we need it and when we give it to executives. And okay, we have that many people coming. That are the different companies they are coming from, and from which region in the world. It can be okay. We had a hackathon. We were supposed to have a hackathon in Tokyo at the beginning early this year, but you can see that it was a global hackathon and people are actually flying over. So we had to work with visas. And once we had to cancel the hack, it was also useful to come back to this dashboard and say, okay, we have to send emails to that many people. The middle one is the most used dashboard in the team, is the developer program stats. So we are looking at how many developers we have in our program, but not only that, we are also looking at the developer sandbox site. Once you join the developer program, you get a sandbox site. So we look at how many people activated the site. And that gives us an insight of how many people are actually active. And recently, I think if you see peak is when we launched the mini challenges, because we saw that not many people were activating the sites. So we launched mini challenges to encourage them to use our sites. We also use data visualization to communicate to developers. The right form is a data visualization on Tableau Public, the YouTube of visualization. And we noticed a gap between the business user and the person coming to the hack. The business user, they have a lot of ideas of what they want to see as a hack project. And the developer might come to the hack and say, okay, I have all these skills, but I don't know what to build. So they can submit ideas on this dashboard on Tableau Public, and people can upvote for ideas. So hacker can go in and vote and see before starting the hack. Okay, what are the business users asking? More example is so this one on the left is also tracking our events. We have a monthly event, that's a public sprint demo, and we are looking at, again, people over time. Are we increasing the number of people attending? And I think the most important that we added on the bottom left is how many people are coming back. We are doing all these events every year, every month. Are there people coming to one event and then they don't come to any other events? And on the right side is a survey data where we combine survey data and submissions from our data dev mini challenges. And just by looking at these dashboards, one insight we took is that the first challenges didn't have any real instruction. It was like, try to build that. And even if it was easy enough, we needed to add instructions, and we added on the second challenge, and we saw a growth of term of users participating to the challenges. So it's how we improve the challenges as well. So how can you get started now that I showed you all the best practice and share this kind of framework we have? I think it's important to have dedicated time for your presentation, for visualization, for data visualization. And that's an example. My manager has this new initiative to get us more hands-on with the data. So he created this Slack bot saying, hey, remember, you need to spend 1 hour exploring the data and share your insight as a team as well at the end. So every week we had 1 hour dedicated to just exploring data and finding new insight, and we were presenting to the team. This is why it's important to work as a team, because you might have different insight, different goals, and different background as well. And sharing these perspectives and share new insight to the team, and say, you might have one insight and someone looking at the dashboard would like, oh, I actually see another insight, and that's just interesting to bring all the people on a call right now or in the room in the future. So I think that's it, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation and you got inspired to do more with your own data, and you're going to come up with great visualizations and to analyze your DevRel data.